Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Thank you for joining us for this Ask the Experts session. This is a continuation of the conversation from Digital Breakout 130 that was just presented by Charles Lamanna. Build Agile Business Processes with Power Apps. We'll be going over some quick housekeeping items before we continue. Just real quick, please use the chat function to ask your questions. The questions will appear to our attendees once they are approved by our moderation team. So you'll be able to vote for your favorite questions using the thumbs up button. That will prompt our experts to answer your questions a little bit more quickly when they see that those are a really popular question. Our experts will answer you verbally and also in the chat. We'll also be sure to give you some resources and links to provide you with more places to get information throughout the session and as well at the end to follow up. As a note about etiquette, we will be recording this session so that we can post it later on for follow-up. Please try not to spam or post inappropriate comments and follow the Microsoft Code of Conduct. Here is the code of conduct for everyone's reference. I will give you a moment to review. Again, as I did mention, we will be recording this session, so please do not record or photograph on your end. And with that, I will introduce our experts and have them go around the virtual room, tell you a little bit about themselves, and we can get started. Ryan, do you want to kick it off?
Yeah, thank you so much, Sharon. So hello, everybody. My name's Ryan Jones. I'm the PM Director for the Common Data Service and for Project Oakdale. It's so exciting to be here today with all of you. I can't wait to get into answering your questions. See, Nathan, do you want to go next?
Absolutely. Sorry for any background noise at the moment. My name's Nathan Helgren. I'm a program manager for the Common Data Service, and I work with the data modeling functionality as well as the data engine.
Thank you, Nathan. Philip?
Hey everyone, my name is Filip Karadzic and I'm a PM on the Power Apps side of things. I work on the table creation experience as well as some other features like responsiveness and controls.
Thank you, Philip. Andrew, would you like to go next?
Hey, my name's Andrew Bibby. I'm a Microsoft MVP from the UK. I build Dynamics 365 and Power apps for a living.
Thank you so much, everybody. Well, shall we go ahead and take our first question? There have been a bunch of great questions coming through today. And of course, if you haven't provided your questions yet, please feel free to do so via the live event Q&A. Our first question comes from Paul. Paul says, hey, you mentioned that we can use custom connectors to access data within systems with an Office license. This is awesome news. Is it just for Oakdale? And if so, are there plans for similar licenses for Power Apps built directly on the CDS? And the answer, Paul, to your question is today, this is for Oakdale only. And what I'm doing is I'm now publishing a response that has a link with additional details about where you can learn more about those particular capabilities. So let's see, I believe next from Anonymous. Hi, Anonymous. They asked, hey, couldn't believe my ears earlier. In the future, can I use Common Data Service and other premium features inside Teams without extra Power Apps licenses? What about API request limits? Will they increase too? And so please let me be clear, Mr. or Mrs. Anonymous, a subset of the CDS capabilities are available in Teams through Oakdale. There's still a set of capabilities such as rich integration with Azure, robust business logic, and advanced security that still only come with our paid CDS environments that are included in paid Power Apps as well as our dynamic SKUs, okay? That's a subset of capabilities available through Oakdale. When it comes to API entitlements or limits, we have no changes to announce at this time. So I'll publish that now. Let's see if we scroll down. Hey, Philip, I see that you answered a question from Vivek. Would you like to cover that?
Sure. Let me just find it.
I can read it if it would help. Oh, go ahead.
Yes. Yes, I think I found it. How to implement sorting and filtering features on a gallery control. This is really specific. A gallery control is something that can display multiple records in a customized view. So basically, the gallery control has the items property, which kind of governs what is shown in the actual gallery control. So by setting the items property not just to a data source like a table from Oakdale, you can put a filter formula on there that you could specify filter criteria there to sort by a certain I guess a column, as we call it now, a column or certain values, and that can even be dynamically come from variables. But anyhow, putting a filter formula in the items property around that data source is how you would filter out the gallery.
Thank you so much, Philip. And so I'll go ahead and publish that. Let's see. We had a great question come in from Ralph in Chicago from our Chicago Power Platform user group. Shout out to all of our user groups out there. How soon can we see tutorials and videos on how GitHub works for CI and CD with Power Apps? A great question, and I actually can share with you a link for the documentation around our GitHub actions for the Power Platform. I expect that full videos will come soon, but if you do follow the link that I'm publishing right now, you will be able to see several GIFs that show how to use those capabilities. But documentation available today, and additional things coming soon. So great question. Thank you so much. Let's see, gosh, lots more questions coming in. Stephen asks us, with Project Oakdale and Teams integration, what permissions are allowed for Teams users in CDS? Will they be allowed to access the data and be able to add to it through a Power App, or will they be allowed to add entities and manipulate data as well? And so during public preview, users are able to do both, but more granular permissions are coming soon. And to what Nathan shared, those capabilities will be a subset of the security model capabilities that we have in the full version of CDS. And then Stephen asked another great follow-up question, which is, are there data limits as well? And that's also a great question. So for each Teams environment, we have a limit of 2 gigabytes, which is enough for you to store 1 million rows of data under most circumstances. And most teams, probably have fewer than 1 million rows of data. So we think that should be pretty good. But if not, please let us know. We always welcome your feedback. So I'll now publish that. Philip, is there a question that you would like to take?
There was a question. So one question was, will we ever see code reusability as functions methods in Power Apps? This is something that we're working on right now in form of custom components, but I can't communicate any ETAs currently.
Great, wonderful. Thank you so much, Philip. And let's see, I think Vivek maybe has a few follow-up questions about sorting, asking about column sort or filter like shown in T-Mobile demos. Philip, do you have any thoughts there?
Sorry, let me find it. Sorry, can't seem to find the follow-ups.
Oh, okay, no worries. Well, while you look then, how about I'll take another question and then you just interject when you're ready, okay?
Sure.
So Anonymous is asking us, as an organization who had a trial period of Power Apps, there's now a lot of chatter about the fee model being prohibitive. Can you share any tips or best practices on creating business cases for the platform? And it's a great question. And we really see that there are 2 types of paths that our customers take when they're going down this journey. The first is that they will seek or try to find a specific application, a hero application that they can use to build their first Power App and to roll it out to either their department or to their organization. That allows them to demonstrate the value of Power Apps, the Power Platform, within a single application at a lower price point than what they would see if they were buying the full per user license. The other scenario that we see is where customers are looking at the per user license, which of course allows you to create unlimited applications. And in most cases, what we see is people will perform a TCO or an ROI analysis to understand how much it costs them to support all of the little apps that they build today, or in some cases even try to evaluate the opportunity cost that's forgone because of all of the little apps that they need, but that cannot build because of developer scarcity. And so we see those two plays going on. One is how do people look at building a single app and making that available more broadly, or how do people look at adopting the Power Platform all up across their organization for multiple apps? So I hope I was able to answer your question, Anonymous. Philip, were you able to have any luck finding the VEX follow-up questions?
No, I will continue to look for that, but I found one which I think is a great question and something I'd like to address. This is by Niels, and the question was, will apps made with Power Apps for Teams be responsive by default? This would make using them on smartphones so much easier. Currently, like if you build the apps with our template, they will be made responsive with our formulas, making things responsive by calculating everything inside. But we have some great new responsiveness features coming out at GA. So they're not currently available during preview, they'll be there at GA. And basically we're introducing these new auto layout containers, vertical and horizontal, where if you drop controls inside of these containers, you don't have to worry about their width, height, or X and Y. They can be automatically calculated based on, screen size or the space available to the container based on what's calculated. So yeah, we know this is very painful today to do, and we'll be addressing it at GA.
Hey, Ryan, there were a couple of questions about number of environments. Could I tackle those real quick?
Yeah, please, Mark, go for it.
Sure. So some folks are asking how much size do they get or how much capacity do they get with one of these environments based in Teams? It's 2 gigabytes, and that's a combination of a file, image, and relational. These are in a different pool than your CDS capacity. And you have up to 500 of these per Teams. That's another question that Anonymous had asked about. How many of these would we get when CDS environments count? And the short answer there is yes. If you're deploying a Power Apps into Teams with Project Oakdale, you're getting a CDS environment under the covers. So it's a 1-to-1 there if you're using Power Apps.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Mark.
I'd also like to just jump in for a moment. There was a question from Gary who was asking about Project Oakdale and the inclusion of the currency data type. We are including a currency data type with Project Oakdale, but it will be limited to just a single currency, which will be your base currency. We won't be supporting multiple transaction currencies or exchange rates in Oakdale.
Thanks so much, Nathan. And so let's see, we have a great question from Oliver. Can I use the ALM tools for the new Project Oakdale to have dedicated dev, test, and prod environments? So making sure that it's possible to have proper CI/CD across dev, test, and prod environments is something that's very important to us. And that's something that we're actively working on. You should be able to do that later during our preview period. So definitely an area of major investment. You go try to do it today, though, you won't necessarily find that everything that you need is available just yet. Oh gosh, someone is asking what the new name for Project Oakdale will be. We have nothing to share at this time. George asked a question about current price points and if we have any plans to change those. We have nothing to share at this time.
There's a question from Mel, and he's asking, or she's asking, I work for a nonprofit, and so I don't have any developers to fall back on. Since I haven't had access to CDS before, I have been using SharePoint to store and call all data. How will Oakdale be able to help me since I'm not a pro developer? So Mel, I think the whole idea of Project Oakdale is to help exactly people who are in your situation. Project Oakdale will make it easy for you, much easier for you to author your data. If you look at some of the demos, we have a new table designer interface, which really looks like an Excel spreadsheet, and it makes it really easy for you to add columns, add rows of data, and you really don't need any programming experience, and you really don't even need to read docs. It should be fairly intuitive how you do everything there. Also, we have, if you start to create an app in Project Oakdale, we have this template which kind of starts working with the table that you just create, allowing you to easily get a kind of a head start in creating your data, and then you can fall back into learning how Power Apps works and customizing it with our WYSIWYG interface. Hopefully that answers the questions.
Let's see, I see an interesting question from Jeff. Hello, we are starting to roll out solutions using the Power Platform. One of our largest hurdles is overcoming stakeholder buy-in. Could you provide some guidance on the best way to get stakeholders interested in low-code solutions as viable options to business needs? This is a great question. I have some thoughts here, but I'd also be curious to know if, Andrew, if you had any thoughts on this particular question.
Hey, Ryan, sorry, I was just answering another question. The question was about, I read it earlier, is it about getting buy-in for Power Apps in an organization?
It's like how do I convince my organization that low code is viable for our needs?
Yeah, I think it is interesting. One of the ways that I've introduced Power Apps and Canvas apps to organizations is to, you have to have some interest within IT and also, in the business as well, to solving some problems. But to do something like a hackathon, which sounds a bit techie, but just to get people in a room for half a day and see what can be done with these tools to solve a problem that that organization currently has. Maybe it's getting leads when they're out on the road, and submitting those via a mobile device, or checking people into an event. Maybe not so much these days, but those kinds of problems that previously you needed to build apps for, and it was very technical, but you can solve those types of problems, or at least prototype them quite richly and really show what can be done very quickly in that sort of scenario.
Awesome, Andrew, thank you so much. I think we definitely see the hackathon, and sometimes our customers don't call them that because, as Andrew mentioned, it can be a bit techy, and so we see that a lot of cases it's really just folks getting together and trying to solve a business problem they've seen through the power of no or low code. And when their organization or their leadership sees how they're able to solve these business problems, but using a broader pool of talent and a broader set of skills to bring that to bear, we usually see that people are very impressed with the capabilities that the Power Platform can bring to bear. Hey, Mark, was there a question that you saw that caught your eye?
Yeah, we had a couple of questions. There was one from someone asking about congratulating the Seahawks. We told him, I mentioned he could build a great app with Oakdale internally. There's some folks asking about CDS and do we include all of CDM inside of Project Oakdale? And the answer there is today we include user, and we're looking to bring more to that soon. We also had some questions about how do you make sure in an organization where you have multiple makers, how do you avoid people creating different representations of the same entity and the same models? And I said a center of excellence model works great with a number of our customers. And we've got a center of excellence toolkit that helps folks get one of those started up. There's a lot of questions around the levers and controls folks are going to have for Oakdale in Teams, really in what's going to be available in PPAC. And so there's a number of things we're working on there to make it easy for you. It's a place that we're listening and investing in. And also working with folks like MSIT, who's pretty hardcore as we dig in there. And then there was another question about people have seen common data service for Teams showing up in their admin center, and is that something that is that plan tied to Oakdale? And the short answer there is that it is.
Awesome, thank you so much, Mark. Let's see, Ashrup asked us a question. Access to Power Apps Maker and sharing are largely managed at the user level and not Active Directory group. Is there any plans to add AD groups functionality? Well, so I think there are a few things for us to touch on here. Number one is that today you can share Power Apps as well as data in the Common Data Service with groups, okay? So you can leverage that functionality today. The other thing, especially in light of our CDS Project Oakdale announcement, is that we also support the constructs, the security constructs that are used within Teams, which are Office groups or Office Modern groups. And so in those cases, when you are building applications, working with data within Teams, we have aligned the security model of Power Apps and Project Oakdale to that of Teams, so that you can take that group or team-based user management and leverage that as you build and manage your applications. So I think actually we're able to do many of the things that you're asking for today. So hopefully you'll be able to kick the tires on that later today. Let's see, a few more questions about governance in general. One thing that I would say is, one of I think the exciting things about using the Power Platform is within your organization, it is very straightforward to be able to see who has built which applications, flows, so on and so forth. You can easily see who is using those applications. You can see who has shared those applications. You can govern through DLP policies, which applications and flows can interact with which data sources to prevent things like data exfiltration. By having all of these things running within a singular platform, it's no longer like the days of old where you would find a server living under someone's desk that was hosting a critical application, and then a desktop somewhere in a broom closet elsewhere was hosting 3 or 4 Access applications. We do provide unsurpassed visibility into what the applications are doing within your organization. And this is something that I think a lot of us maybe aren't aware of. And so what I would recommend you to take a look at is our Center of Excellence Starter Kit. The Center of Excellence Starter Kit aims to help IT organizations or people within an organization that specialize in the Power Platform to bring governance over your Power Apps and other Power Platform assets, so that you can help enable people across your organization to digitally transform your business, but do so in a secure, compliant, and well-governed manner. So I would strongly recommend that you check out the Power Apps Center of Excellence Center of Excellence Starter Kit. It really is a great asset. Can't say enough good things about it.
Hey, Ryan, one of the other questions we were getting is what happens when I hit the 2 GB limit for Project Oakdale? And so there are a couple of options there. One is, a simple one is you can delete the data, delete some of the data if you don't need it. You can create a new team, which will give you another environment, which will give you another 2 GB, or you can promote to the full Common Data Service for that. And that can go to 4 TB or more, depending on what your needs are. And what we found with folks when we've talked about it, that 2 GB can hold up to 1 million rows, which is significantly larger than many of the scenarios that are out there. And when we've had conversations with customers and we talked about their user scenarios, A lot of times it fit perfectly and with plenty of overhead, with plenty of room to grow. And if it didn't, we found out that there was an app where they just kept a bunch of legacy data around that they'd never ever used, and they were actually using Teams in the preview to partition out that data. So you could see 2020 and then 2021 for other things. So lots of different options there, and I put some of those in the chat.
Thank you so much, Mark.
There was a question about accessibility and how you can build accessible apps and how Power Apps can help support that. So the answer is, if you're building in Power App Studio, there's a button for the app checker, which when you click on it, it'll show you some of the accessibility issues. I believe they're shown as warnings. So there's that, and I've also posted a link in that question that I answered, which kind of leads you to our guidelines about how to build accessible apps. Really, it's we do take accessibility seriously, as all Microsoft products and apps, can be built accessibly. However, depending on how complex your interaction patterns are, there's work needed from the app author to do some things in the correct way in order to make them accessible. And there's more details in those docs.
Thank you so much, Philip. And let's see, Franz asked a great question. Any plans to integrate with .NET, compile to C# perhaps? And so I think there are several ways that we integrate with .NET today. First is the API endpoints that are consumed via custom connectors or APIM can be built using C#, okay? They can be hosted in Azure Functions or Azure App Services or AKS, but built using C# and then consumed via those custom connectors or APIM. Option number 2 is, if you're using the full version of CDS that comes with paid Power Apps or dynamic SKUs, you can register code snippets that are called plugins, which run between the CDS API and the CDS storage subsystem, and that lets you implement complex business logic. And then finally, number 3 is also if you are using the Common Data Service, or perhaps even certain ways of using Flow, it is possible for us to emit events into Service Bus, into Event Hub, or invoke webhooks that then in turn trigger various custom logic that you have hosted in Azure or elsewhere. So a lot of different ways where we can bring the world of pro code and the world of low code and no code together to build some pretty cool, powerful experiences. So I think that we are wrapping up towards the end of our time today. I'd like to thank each and every one of you for taking the time to chat with us today to ask lots of questions. We've tried to answer many of them through the event Q&A, as well as answer many of them on air as well. I hope the things that we've discussed, you've found them valuable. And of course, if you ever have any additional questions about the Power Platform, please feel free to reach out to us via the Dynamics 365 community or the Power Platform community. We very, very much want you to be happy and successful in you and your organization's use of the Power Platform. Thanks so much, everybody. Take care and have a great day. Bye.